Mikee P back on the In Money Players podcast, In the Money Media YouTube channel, and Laurel Park gets back underway this weekend. We got a guy in here that certainly is very familiar with the Laurel Park racing circuit and Maryland racing circuit as a whole. Jockey, exercise rider, handicapper, Will Humphrey with me back from the motherland. Will, what's up?
Hey, Mike. Thanks for having me back on. Yeah, Happy New Year to you and all the listeners, and excited to be talking about Laurel with you again today. It's just returning from a short break, start their meet on Friday, and we got a great sequence of races to cover here at Laurel on Saturday.
Yeah, and Laurel, quite the resurgence this past year with huge handle increase. I know Dan Illman showing up and a lot of horse player friendly wagering going on at Laurel Park. Handle up 14% last year. Field sizes are getting bigger. And Will, the racing has been really fantastic. I do think that this is a product that horse players really, I think, should be focusing on, given the state of racing right now and how things are in other places. Laurel Park thriving.
Absolutely, Mike. And I think I speak on behalf of all of ITM when we say that we're delighted to be working with the guys at the Maryland Jockey Club again this year. They really do an absolutely fantastic job there. And Dan Illman and his crew, they have the bettors at heart. They have the horsemen at heart. They're just trying to do the best thing for everyone. And it's paying off. I mean, as you say, handle up 14% last year. Big fields. They're working well with other tracks. And some really great cards and competitive racing, and yeah, it's a fun circuit to follow. I'm very fortunate that I get to do it for you guys every week.
Well, we talk about some of the horse player friendly options and Maryland. Well, they have the handicapping guide that goes out every day for every race card. If you go to laurelpark.com/picks, it brings you to this Laurel Park screen where you get the selections from the group, but you can download the handicapping guide also. And if you do click on that link and download the handicapping guide, we have plenty of analysis, from Dan Illman, but there's lots more in here. Also, you get max facts in here with analysis from the races. And we have our own tips and trips by Will Humphrey from In the Money Media. Look, here you are, Will, with your tips and trips for these cards here at Laurel. So talk about what the time you're putting into the circuit, some of the things that you're looking at with your trip notes in here, and some of the things that you can alert other horse players with these different trips to allow for, maybe some scores later on.
Yeah, well, Mike, I simply go through and watch each horse's recent races and just identify things that may not be so obvious to people just by looking at the PPs. Maybe things get missed out in the chart comments, and they may be for better or for worse, whether a performance needs upgrading owing to a wide trip or downgrading owing to a track bias. I just try and pick out and highlight horses that maybe performing or expected to perform better or worse than it would simply appear from simply looking at the PPs. And I'm very proud of the fact that last year we had great success with these horses. So yeah, and the entire handicapping guide as a whole, as you quite rightly say, it's a fantastic free product that the team put an awful lot of work into each and every day. So definitely worth checking that out.
Yeah, it's a Cliff Notes version too. I mean, you could go in and dig in for this information, or you could go to people you trust. And Will is certainly somebody that I do trust, has a great eye with his experience as a jockey. And, he can look at these trips and dissect them. He can see how horses are moving, traveling in races, definitely trip troubles and other things too. With how much that he can evaluate him as a horseman. These horses, while they're involved in these races, and he gives out some horses to follow also. And I know, Will, some of your spot plays and your horses to follow that show up in these races, again, you mentioned last year had great success.
Yeah, we batted at about 35% consistently from February to December last year, which was really successful. And unfortunately, we ended on a negative return on investment for November last year, but prior to that, we have been positive return on investment all year long, which is something that I'm very proud of, and hope to continue that into 2026.
Other big news this week at Laurel, where they have a finalist to one of the jockeys, Yedsit Hazlewood, who I believe is really a fantastic jockey. He's a finalist for the 2025 Eclipse Award for Apprentice Jockey, and for a rider that really just recorded his first winner on April 4th. He's 17 years old. Will, talk about this gentleman. He is a legitimate jockey. I really think that he moves horses up. He's somebody to be reckoned with, especially on this Maryland circuit.
Absolutely. I mean, he's stealing £5 because he rides better or equally as well than anyone in the circuit. And he rode over 100 winners in 2025, which is phenomenal because a lot of people forget that he was actually involved in a car crash in the summer and missed a good portion of time. But he came back and he just absolutely cleaned up. I think he something phenomenal, like 23 consecutive racing days at Laurel where he recorded at least one winner. He was winning stakes for fun. He had 4 winners on Maryland Million Day last year. And he just has an incredible ability to get horses to run for him. He's always got his horses in the right place and just a very talented, natural, promising jockey that I'm sure is going to go a very, very long way.
Yeah, he's incredibly impressive, and you can watch him. For me, he's somebody that I've been watching races 30 some years, and just to see him, he passes the eye test, and that's something that I could certainly say. And I'm excited to see what the future brings for him. Well, let's jump into some handicapping here for this Saturday, January 10th card. And of course, Laurel has those value pick fives, like the first 5 races and the last 5 races, 12% takeout. You can have some carryover possibilities also here, but these pick fives are certainly a horse player friendly wager that we definitely want to get involved in.
Absolutely, Mike. I mean, very, very better friendly. Difficult sequences to handicap, as I mentioned earlier. The racing at Laurel all year long is extremely competitive, but when you connect the dots with that low percent takeout, it certainly pays well. So yeah, as you say, definitely worth getting involved.
I want to get your spot plays from some of the early pick 5 races, and then maybe we can look at that late pick 5 quickly also for Saturday. Will, jump into your spot plays here. Where'd you find your eye here for this early pick 5?
Yeah, so we'll kick things off in race 2, Mike, and I'm interested in the 3-horse Blow Byam in here. Short field, only 6 horses in here, but quite an evenly matched group. Although there is a short field, the pace looks frenetic. The 1 horse only has one way of going. Same can be said about the 4, and we've a couple of speed balls coming out of 4.5 furlong race at Charlestown. And I think that that's going to set up really well for Blow Byam, who has been running very well of late. Very consistent horse. Didn't have a perfect trip at all last time, but still ran well to finish second. And if you go by the Timeform US race ratings, which I think are an invaluable tool, he's actually exiting what Timeform US suggests are much tougher races here today. So I think with that perfect setup, speed to run at, and a horse that's in good form, getting some class relief, I think that he's a very likely winner of race 2.
Yeah, he's an interesting one here with he gets a little bit of a turn back, but was facing much better. He was in those optional claiming starter type races, dropped to a 2 life last time. Now you get a barn switch here. Definitely closed up while favored last time, but you mentioned I do think that this is a much better spot for this race and for this horse. So a good way to maybe center some of those pick 5 tickets around that early pick 5 on Saturday. Will, what else you got?
Yeah, moving on to race 4, I'm very interested in Gonna Make It here, who is the 3-horse. Now, he was beaten as the 6-5 favorite last time, but I thought made a very, very pleasing route debut. He was fitted with blinkers and also running as a gelding for the first time that day, only his second career start. And he managed to hold on for 3rd in that race, despite racing incredibly wide throughout. And finished a very hard trying 3rd, just behind the reopposing and far more experienced Pencil Mien. Now, I have reason to believe that with that 2-turn experience and further racing experience, career start number 3 now, he's entitled to take a big step forward with a more ground-saving trip. And he also gets Lasix on for the first time, which is a very positive angle when it comes to Brittany Russell-trained horses. Over the last year, her runners have gone 10 for 18, 57, 56% in maiden claimers when Lasix go on for the first time. 15 of those 18 finished in the money, and she posts a positive ROI of $3.80 with this angle as well. So I think a step forward with the Lasix going on, going to make it, should be tough to beat in the fourth.
What's your take on the two in that race, Tug, who obviously was a winner on November the 28th, but was disqualified in that spot for getting out. And then last time, really a non-effort, but you get Lasix here. I do think you're going to get a bit of a price, and it seems like hopefully get a dry track. That could benefit this one.
Yeah, definitely. I just felt that last race was extremely concerning. He really didn't run a step in that race from about the half-mile pole and was practically eased home.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he was also he had weight off in those races. The Bug Boy was taking 7 pounds off. He doesn't get that today, so he's carrying almost 10 pounds more. And I think that he's going to need to move forward off of even his career best effort, which coming out of that race last time, for me personally, I struggle to side with a horse such as that.
Race 5, you got a maiden 40 claimer here going 7 furlongs. You have some first timers in this race. Do you like one of those, or maybe one of the ones that have raced?
A horse towards the outside in here catches my eye. The 10 Close the Gate at 6-1 on the morning line. Now, this horse's 42 buyer on debut falls well short of what his rivals have achieved. Hence his 6-1 morning line price. But he was very, very green in that race early on and barely ran a step for the first half of the contest. He dropped himself over 15 lengths off the lead at second call. But the penny then seemed to drop at the top of the lane, and he absolutely rattled home, weaving through a little bit of traffic to finish second, which in a race that saw speed hold well, I thought was very impressive. He then galloped out in front of the field, and I felt that his ability was far superior to the result that he actually posted in that race. The second came back, or the third place finisher, I should say, sorry, came back to improve their buy of 15 points next out, finishing second in a maiden special weight. And the winner, Rhodes, another Brittany Russell trained horse that absolutely aired. I think that Lasix go on, start number 2. John Salzman Jr. is a trainer who, with these young horses, experienced horses, really gets them to fire early on in their career. And I think that this horse represents tremendous value at 6-1 on the morning line.
That's an interesting race because you have the main special weight droppers, you have some of the horses that have been knocking around at maiden claimers, you have some first timers, everyone's sort of meeting in the middle here, and then you add the element of the fresh 3-year-olds getting Lasix, plenty of those in this spot. So really difficult way to end the early pick 5, that 12% takeout value pick 5 at Laurel on Saturday. Well, let's go to late pick 5 now. We still get that 12% takeout here, and you have a different set of races. A couple upper level type allowance races. How are we going to attack the late pick 5?
Well, Mike, the first race in this sequence, extremely competitive race. The morning line favorite 7's11 is listed at 4-1 on the morning line, so that proves the open nature of this race. I'd be against that runner. He really hasn't seen the same horse since he's returned from the layoff in November. He does have the best form overall, but he's just been wildly out of form recently. The track was presenting a closer bias, and he had a wicked pace to run at last time, but could only manage a 65 buyer, which I think is beatable in here. The trainer's not for his last 31 and just 1 for his last 55. So with the expectation that he's going to take money on the class drop, I want to try and beat him. There isn't much speed in here, considering that there's a large field, slightly surprising, but I think that the 10 PJ Song is an interesting runner in here. He comes into this race in a very rich vein of form, posted a near career best at a mile last time, despite a very wide trip throughout. Now, he's a fairly consistent horse, consistently running mid 60 buyers, which are good enough to go close in here. He's 3 for 4 in the exacta at Laurel, 3 for 3 at the 6 furlong distance. And I think that the wide draw, if Raul Mena can use that to get an early position here, I think that he should be in a good position to run another good race, and I hope that he can get it done at 6-1. The 6 Woodline, I think, is another interesting horse. To me, he does look the speed in this race, which is very appealing in this race that lacks speed. Now, he suffered a little bit of trouble two back, but the 64 bars that he picked up either side of that were very good. And the winner of his race, three back, Freeze the Fire, he came back to post a 90 bar last time out. So that's definitely some good form in here. Very consistent runner who could be a decent price if getting loose on the lead. And one final one who I'd just give a quick mention to would be the 8 Magic Spin. 6-1 morning line, I think, is very fair on this horse. He might not get the setup that he's looking for in here, but he is getting some notable class relief dropping out of starter allowance company. And he has the bug weight off as well, which I always think that in with these lower level claimers is a big, big advantage.
Yeah, this is a very, very wide open race. Very difficult. I'd be curious to see. The favorite could go off over 4-1 in that first, the beginning of that value. 12% pick five, the late pick five here on Saturday. Will, give us the race number 7. Looks like a two horse type of race. You have Code of Silence and GQ Worthy coming back in here. They raced against each other in that Maryland Juvenile, finishing 1-2. Do you think it's those two? Would you sort of lock up the race with them, or you like somebody else?
I think that Code of Silence is very much the horse to beat in here, Mike. He's really, really stepped forward for the addition of Blinkers 2 back and beat a very promising horse called Skillium over 6 furlongs when breaking his maiden. That horse came back to post a 71 buyer in a romp next time out. And then he got the better of GQ Worthy last time when he followed up in the Maryland Juvenile. Now, the fig came back a little bit slow that day, but we have to consider that he sat a very wide trip in that race, and there's a chance that he might have just bounced a little bit off of that big maiden win. He really runs to me like a horse who is crying out for this one-turn mile at Laurel. It's a very stamina-demanding distance without a bend to slow them down through the back stretch, and then they have the long run to the second wire as well, and they can get racing a long way out. And to me, this horse is all about stamina. I think he's going to step forward for this test on Saturday, and I think that he's very much the one to beat. Lundy Lute is an interesting horse to consider as well. He isn't bred to route, but certainly ran like he'd appreciate further last time. And the trainer has a good record at stretching horse out and trip the first time. He's talented enough to win at this level, and he's an interesting one to consider. As is Let's Go Lando, the 2. You have to respect anything that Gary Capuano and Yedsit Hazlewood team up with. And this horse on Timeform US, his last effort was as fast as anyone in here, despite a wide trip in that race. Lasix on for the first time. And the attraction to this horse is that he's already been a route of ground 3 times. And so you can guarantee that he's going to be running late, which with a couple of stretch out sprinters lining up in this race, you can't say about everyone. For me personally, in the pick 5, I'll be singling Code of Silence, but just thought I'd give a mention to the 1 and the 2 as well.
Well, just a couple minutes left here. We got 3 races left in this late pick 5. How are you going to finish out the ticket?
Yeah, I really like Noble Status in the third leg of this race. This horse has taken a little bit of time to find her best stride, but has already shown a great deal of potential and has suffered some bad trips 3 times in a row now. Particularly in that last race, steadied entering the bend, but then finished with very, very good energy towards the inside. Prosecco Rita is a very promising Brittany Russell trained horse that finished second in the stake the time prior. I think that that's the best form on offer. I think that this horse gets a huge step forward for getting back out to the mile in a race with lots of speed signed on. And you've got that boy Yedsit Hazlewood taking £5 off, which is no bad.
Race 9 and 10. Go ahead.
Yeah, race 9, I think that Green Eyed Monster is going to be a lock in here. Kind of lays over this field, in my opinion, on recent form and speed figures. Ran an 87 buyer, 3 back at Charlestown, and then has hit the board with good efforts in stakes the last twice. In particular, that effort 2 back, he set a wicked pace on the front in the Maryland Million Distaff, I should say. And only got run down late, despite the fact that there was a heavy closer bias. Lasix back on today. You've got an outside post giving Xavier Perez some tactical options in this race, and I'd be surprised if Green Eyed Monster was beaten in the 9th on Saturday. And then to close out the card, I'd be very much against the 8-5 favourite in the nightcap, Kitty Up, who I don't think is going to be suited by this stretch out in trip at all. The 1 and the 6 are going to be my A's in here, Mike. They were separated by just a nose in their last race, exit the same race. They both had inadequate starts in that race. The 6 was coming off the layoff. The 1 was making just her second career start. I think both shaped like they should appreciate the stretch out to a mile this afternoon. Both are entitled to take a step forward, and I'd be disappointed if one of them couldn't get the job done.
Well, it sounds like that late pick 5, very approachable, Will. You have some strong opinions there. Maybe you could jump into that for a higher multiple for sure. You know, if you can get through that first leg, that 6th race, especially maybe with a couple horses, you can really slim out those last couple races there and maybe get that pick 5 to kick off this meet at Laurel. They start on Friday, but this Saturday card is going to be fantastic, and it's exciting to have them back. Exciting to have you, and we have an extended partnership this year with the Maryland Jockey Club, so plenty of more Laurel coming down the pike, and I'm sure that that's going to include a lot of Will Humphrey.
I sure do hope so, Mike.
Well, this has been a production of In the Money Media. We hope you jump into Laurel for this weekend. Lots more to come this year. Get in on the handicapping guide. Also, laurelpark.com/picks. Get in on those 12% takeout pick 5s. We'll talk to you guys soon.